Wasn't a terrible job, but, you know, it'd be nice if someone read the book first. What else was good about this movie? It's hard out there being a Nepo baby. Jam on the head, completely optional. Why did they do that? Hi, welcome back. I'm Kate of Kate and Kat, and on this channel I usually do either sewing, historical projects, or a bit of home renovation, which I finally have a real video about. And today I'm doing my third video for JaneCon as an Austen aficionado who did make a Jane Austen themed coloring book. And today I'm going to be delving into the depths, of Netflix's Persuasion. Thank you so much to Bianca Hernandez Knight and all of the amazing volunteers who make this event possible every year. And make sure to check out the other videos made for JaneCon, I'll be linking them below. I know as a community, Austenites can get pretty darn heated about movie adaptations. And personally, I don't take kindly to people trashing the 2005 Pride and Prejudice.
And if you don't like this version of Pride and Prejudice, you're cordially invited to fight me.
So I will try my best not to trash this movie, even though I am a devotee of the 1995 Persuasion, and Persuasion is my favorite Austen novel because I myself am an Anne Elliot. So please take my opinion with a grain of salt, and if you enjoy this movie, continue enjoying it. Live your best life, babes. I will admit I was particularly hard on this movie because it was my favorite, but more so because at the time it was created, there was a second Persuasion adaptation that was in the works. Captain Wentworth was going to be Joel Fry, who's been in a ton of British comedies, is fantastic, and is most well known for recently being in Our Flag Means Death as a pirate, which I like to think of as his Wentworth origin story. And the fact that that adaptation with Joel Fry as Wentworth, the fact that that was cancelled because of this Dakota Johnson version may have skewed my opinion a little. In this video, I will be answering some very important questions, like, is this movie absolute garbage? Does it honor the source material? Does it engage in too much Fleabagification of Anne Elliot? Did they accidentally turn Anne into a Bridget Jones' Diary version of Lizzie Bennet instead of paying attention to Anne Elliot's characterization at all? And most importantly, what was up with that rabbit? So before I tear the wings off this fly, let me point out some things that I absolutely adored about this movie. It has an incredible aesthetic and cinematography. The color schemes are beautiful for the most part, despite some confusing choices. Costumes are gorgeous. We did see some actual stays, which is always fun, and there was a variety of kind of slouchy cottagecore linen looks that were divine. I think it had a very similar overall style and feel to the aesthetic of Pride and Prejudice 2005, with a very soft, muted, feminine feel, except for that one cozy little corner the Wentworth sat in that was super masculine with dark tones and wood. I know what else is good about this movie. Mary Musgrove.
How are you feeling, Mary?
You haven't even asked me how I'm feeling. The thing about me is I am an empath. This jam is too soggy. It's made me realise how important it is to spend time away from one's children. And Henrietta, that soiled napkin of a curate, Henry Hayter.
She was incredible scene stealer. It was giving me Florence Pugh energy. She somehow managed to nail the self-importance and self-absorption of Mary from the book.
Despite being the most accomplished decoupage artist of the three of us.
She did it in the most delightfully unhinged way, which was entertaining to watch and true to the book, and it made the weird modernization elements actually work.
But how do I prioritize self-care with everyone around me constantly bidding for my attention?
Chef's kiss of a moment. They've somehow managed to turn an LA wellness girly into a Regency sister who you kind of want to strangle but kind of want to laugh at the same time. I think they did a great job with the elder Sir Eliot.
Vanity is the beginning and end of his character, also the middle.
Sir Walter Elliot, born March 1st, 1760. Man of consequence, known for his exquisite jawline.
In his few scenes, they really leaned into the camp of the character, which makes his self-absorption be kind of funny and something you can ridicule.
What right has the British Navy to bring persons of obscure birth into undue distinction? Only God has the right to bestow rank. What good is a title if you have to earn it?
I think they did a tremendous job with him. Cosmo Jarvis was a tremendous Wentworth. He was a lot more emotionally intelligent than Wentworth usually is.
You two really have met.
Fleetingly.
And yet memorable in its fleetingness.
I feel like Wentworth's hallmark is that he's kind of a dummy who doesn't understand his feelings, but that boy was longing from start to finish, and personally, I thought it was delicious.
Look at him being all emotionally intelligent. Baby.
My mom, not so much into it.
I think he looks sad and scruffy. I mean, perfect hair.
This is where you and I differ. I love a sad, scruffy boy.
Well, he's got perfect hair, vest, the whole thing. But he looks so more like somebody that you need to hold up all the time because he's so longing.
We love a longing look.
Just imagine if someone who you cared for looked at you with that longing in their eyes. Would that not melt you just a little bit? Just a little. Even if he was a little scruffy. Got too real.
And I thought he was overall delightful. I think he had a hell of a time having to pretend to be in love with Dakota Johnson, but he did his darndest.
He looks like he's 2 seconds away from kissing her at all times.
Yes. Why? Even when he's with Louisa.
I know.
And boy, he was selling it. She was giving nothing, but he was selling it. What else was good about this movie? Horses. Tremendous horses in this movie. A+ to every horse in it. So, moving on to our next section, things that were hit or miss. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Unfortunately, I feel like the colorblind casting is going to fall into this category. What's the point of doing colorblind casting if you're just going to put a white American Nepo baby as the heroine? And next we have Henry Golding, who's usually such a golden retriever, ray of sunshine in every movie he's in. And that's what makes him so lovable. To me, unfortunately, I wanted to love him in this. I thought the choice to make him the villain was kind of a weird casting. It was against his usual typecast.
I think I'm in your way.
Perhaps you can correct that.
Perhaps.
Can I help you with something?
Considering what I'd like help with, probably not.
And they leaned into it a little too heavily. And I think the impact of Mr. Elliot completely failed because from the beginning he was a leering, vaguely nefarious sort of guy. They really telegraphed the fact that he was going to be the bad guy.
About a month ago, I received word that my uncle had appeared in Bath in the company of a woman of low birth. Many presume she was after his hand. My concern is that he will have a son, and that son will rob me of my title and my estate. Now, my plan is to block that by any means necessary.
Whereas in the book, he's a lot more charming. He's a sort of Wickham type where we have questions about him, but he seems so engaged by Anne that maybe he's a good guy, and that makes the betrayal at the end all the more insidious and dark and poignant. Whole plot line with Anne's ill friend who Mr. Elliot has done wrong by. That's a hard plot point to fit in such a short movie, and I understand removing it, but they could have used the Mrs. Clay plot line in a similar manner and revealed at the end that Mr. Elliot is nefarious, but instead they pretty much told you right away, which I think took away the power of that turn and took away a lot of the drama, and I didn't understand that choice. I love the casting of the actress who played Louisa. I believe her name is Mia Towell. I will not lie to you. Throughout the entire movie, I was rooting for her and Wentworth to get together, and I thought she would have been an incredible Anne, so I'm a little bit sad that she was Louisa instead of Anne.
I like those two better. I want to be with Anne. Pick Louisa. She's cuter, she's nicer, she got gray hair.
She's got gray hair.
Yeah, got a little raisin curls going on.
And they made some choices that weaken her storyline as well. This is going to be a weird note. I believe she was played with a little too much empathy and relatability that made me think she would be a really good Anne rather than a Louisa.
You remember when Captain Wentworth first came, and I encouraged you to pursue him? Well, that was before I knew him, of course, and I genuinely hoped that you two would be a match.
Now you'd like him for yourself?
He's everything. I don't know how he feels, but I'm falling in love. I've thought quite a lot about how I would feel were our roles reversed. I might be hurt, perhaps even jealous, but I can honestly say that any sorrow for myself would be entirely eclipsed by the pleasure I would take in seeing you happy.
One of the hallmarks of Louisa is she's more of a Mary Ann. She just wants to follow her passions wherever they lead and have fun and isn't too worried about the stakes. Whereas this Louisa is very emotionally intelligent. I think that shows a depth of character that the Louisa in the book wouldn't have. And it's not a characterization change that I mind terribly, but it did make me like her with Wentworth a whole lot more. So That's a problem. But I thought she was delightful. I would love to see her in more period pieces. The biggest thing that falls for me in the strange gray area of sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, is the modernization aspects. There were some that were really delightful and I will not shut up about.
The first note he passed me in church. The playlist he made me. And the Navy adores him. Frederick Wentworth rescues a beached whale as onlookers weep.
I thought that was a delightful translation of modern concepts into a facetious Regency context. I love goofiness like that. And the goofiness of comedic joke in the background about Captain Wentworth and a whale.
I heard he once redirected an entire flotilla to save a beached whale.
Super funny, weird, campy, loved it. I thought that was great. Some of the modernization of language, some was a hit, some was a miss. Mary calling herself an empath, a tremendous modernization. Loved that. Worked with her character. She sold it well in a believable way where it didn't seem too anachronistic. But all of the times they gave them a rating as you would someone on a dating app.
It's often said if you're 5 in London, you're 10 in Bath.
Didn't quite land for me. It was a little bit nails on a chalkboard, trying too hard. And then making Anne a wine mom.
Marry me first. Oh.
That was a choice. Was it the right choice? I don't think so. That felt like very lazy storytelling that didn't work with her character. It was meant to make the viewer feel like she's a modern, relatable gal. When she has a hard day, she just wants a glass of wine. And that feels very much like the take a male writer would have if he has no idea what a human woman is. So I didn't love that. And much has been said about the Fleabagification of Anne Elliot, where she constantly breaks the fourth wall and looks at the camera and gives little smirky grins, which sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The problem with that is that it was overused, so it lost its resonance. If it had been more selectively used, it could have been great, frankly. Another thing that was middling was the characterization of Lady Russell. Some of it I didn't love. In the beginning, when they're speaking about retrenching, she was really hard on Sir Elliot.
She begged me to protect her daughters from their father's excessive excesses, and I have failed. Your arrogance will bankrupt them all.
Which contradicts her character in the book, who really loves to suck up to higher class people, and it's pointing out that she herself has her flaws, and that's an important plot point in the story. But I will say, Lady Russell at the end of the movie, I did not care that they tweaked her character slightly and made her a widow about the continent. I thought that was a delightful change, and those scenes with the picnic and the two women strolling around Bath, I thought those were great moments of female friendship, and it seemed like they did have a really lovely relationship.
There's company I enjoy. My own. There's a reason widowed men die soonest and unmarried women live longest. We're great company.
But do you ever miss company?
Why do you think I take so many European tours?
And that, to me, is true to the book, and I thought that was a great modernization aspect. It was a little Bridgerton. It was a little fun. It could make sense if you're fleshing out Lady Russell's character. Maybe she's the kind of woman who would go to the continent and take a lover or two. And overall, I enjoyed her character. They did miss an opportunity at the beginning of the novel to set up the reasons why she let Anne down in the past, because of her blindness to rank. For the things I didn't love about this movie, other than the fact that it precluded a Joel Fry version, which I am still... You're not going to be surprised when I tell you that the worst part about this movie was Anne Elliot. Unfortunately, Dakota Johnson, I did not like that casting from the beginning, and her performance did not change that opinion for me. Her accent fluctuated throughout, which is a little bit distracting. She played it a little too glib, and at no point did I feel like she was actually interested in Wentworth, and it made me root for them to not be together, which is not usually how I feel about Persuasion. Okay, continuing my rant about Anne. Throughout, she felt like an anti-hero, not a heroine. She was a Walter White, cast of girls kind of character, where you want to root for her, but she just makes a lot of bad choices, and you can't feel that bad for her for making those. Why would you yell at your ex-boyfriend and then spill jam all over your head while drinking wine? I don't feel bad for you, man. The way she throws herself on her bed like an over-indulgent teenager and pines about him, but then refuses to sit next to him at dinner? Girl, what are you doing? Well, this is Editing Kate. I'm back because I had a realization while I was watching my very uncharitable review of Anne Elliot. I realized the problem is to be able to translate the book to the screen, they took a lot of things that the omniscient narrator was saying or thinking or portraying, which in Jane Austen's usual style can be quite sharp and in some points kind of mean, although extremely insightful. That coming out of Anne's mouth can make her seem rather uncharitable. Anne's a lot of things. She's empathetic, she's put upon, she's prone to pining, but above all things, Anne's pretty kind. So a lot of the things that they have Anne say to the camera is realistically, they're the narrator's thoughts, not Anne's thoughts. So by conflating those two, it diminishes her character and confuses the tone of what her character is portraying. But I can't lay all the blame at Dakota Johnson's feet. It's hard out there being a Nepo baby. Quite a bit of blame does lie with the script because the most important part of the story, I would say even beyond the love story, is Anne's journey, which I think is completely absent from the movie. In the beginning, she starts off in a place where many women find ourselves because we are socialized to be this kind of person, a people pleaser who is taking care of everyone around them with no thought for themselves. Even the fact that she broke up with Wentworth in the first place was done for other people. She was essentially doing it because it was what society and her family expected of her, and she thought it would be helpful to the man she loved most. So it was all very self-sacrificing. The movie doesn't give you that same impact. It's important to see Anne at this low place because it allows her the journey into finding herself and standing up for herself, which is an incredibly empowering narrative, especially for something from the Regency era, because it is still very much relevant today. How many of us have not self-abandoned in a relationship to make our loved ones, our partner, our work, whoever, happy at our own expense? I think it's an important storyline to learn that you can and should stand up for yourself and believe in your abilities and value your own opinion if you're someone as smart and caring and empathetic and competent as Anne Elliot.
Charles wanted to marry me first. Speaking of marriage, remember how Charles wanted to marry me before he married Charles?
Not the Anne Elliot in this movie. I don't know who that gal was, but the book Anne Elliot. And that was, to me, the biggest problem with this movie is they completely missed the characterization of Anne Elliot because they were too invested in making it a feminist modern retelling where she was relatable. And I'm not saying that it being feminist or modern or relatable are bad things. It didn't allow her to be a submissive people pleaser in the beginning because it was not the kind of story they were trying to tell. And because they didn't do that at the beginning, she was never able to have the character arc where she then becomes a better person and learns to stand up for herself and those that she cares about. We just have an Anne who's kind of snarky and drinking the whole time.
Quanto disto il Colosseo?
You're right.
By the end, she's now snarky and drinking but has a man.
And anyway, it's dreadfully unfair.
I have plans.
I don't know where the character development was in the middle. Yeah, the attempt to modernize it and make it relatable. They might have leaned a little too heavily in the Bridget Jones's Diary sort of space.
Sometimes I have this dream that a giant octopus is sucking my face.
Perhaps the next time you meet an octopus, you should embrace him rather than try to detach.
In your dreams, Mr. Elliot.
I have no explanation for why that scene exists. It would have had the opportunity in that moment to play up how ridiculous it is that Sir Elliot cares that much about Lady Dalrymple and Miss Cartwright. But instead, they just made Anne the center of attention in a weird way again. I don't know. That was a real choice. There are a few moments where they inserted information that they thought a modern audience wouldn't understand.
The truth is, marriage is transactional for women. Our basic security is on the line. I could not have let you throw yourself away on a man with no rank, no fortune.
I think a modern audience would be able to use a few context clues. And I'm not saying that every line had to be word for word from Austen, but if you can make a Robespierre joke, I think the audience is smart enough to get a little bit of Austen's language. You know?
Save it for Robespierre.
By the way, Robespierre joke, delightful. So, in closing, what did I think about this movie? It's fine. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just there. It's got some delightful scenery, truly, truly impeccable cottagecore vibes. So, it's a fun little popcorn watch, but it's all right. I don't know. I would have just appreciated a little bit more reverence for the character of Anne. And it was frustrating that it felt like it could be an extremely great movie. There were a lot of pieces there to make it great, and then they just fumbled Anne so hard that it left a lot to be desired, for me at least. But is it worth watching? Yeah, why not? Anyways, closing thoughts. This Anne is trash, but the movie's beautiful overall. I hope you enjoyed this deep ? And insightful ? Review of Netflix's Persuasion. If you'd like some more Jane Austen content, I'll link to my videos on Austenland and the Eleanor dress. And I hope very soon to be making a video for you on my Regency underpinnings, which I sewed, and some accessories that I made to go with this outfit. And as always, if you're an Austen aficionado like me, check out my Jane Austen coloring book, A Quick Succession of Busy Nothings. I'll link to it below as well. Thanks so much for watching, and in the meantime, don't put a breadbasket on your head. Thanks so much for watching, and in the meantime, keep making.